Betsy, over to you.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. Let me share my screen and jump into this story. I would call it a story, not only a presentation. I will try to make it an interactive one, and after the presentation part, we can have a discussion about this hot topic, which is longevity nowadays, the science of long and healthy life, and I also has some kind of biosensors here in my room. Of course, if we were in live in personal, you could try these biosensors, but in that presentation I try to make or show you some kind of interactive content about it, and of course in the Q&A session in the end I'm open to answer any question. So thank you for the introduction, Gabi. I'm a biomedical engineer and also a longevity researcher and an obsessed distance runner. And all in my life, in my professional career, in my studies and in my sport career, I try to find a flow experience, which is the key to the optimal and long-lasting performance, both mentally and physically. And before jumping into this longevity technology and the biosensors, let me tell you a short story how I got here at the age of 30, that I'm speaking about longevity and have to live a long and healthy life, and why my aim is to live up to 100 or even beyond. After watching Brian Johnson's movie on Netflix, my aim is to live up to 120 and beyond, so this will be the story. But how we get here? Let's jump back in the arrow of time a few years, or let's say decades. I was born in a village here in Hungary, and my childhood dream was to become an engineer. And while in the carnival season we were wearing superhero shirts with my brother Norby, I love Superman and the other superheroes, and I was always dreaming about whether we have superpowers or not. And I knew at that time that I want this life to be a joy and a play for me, even when I will grow up. And that's why my childhood dream was to become an engineer, because I knew that I can make creative things, I can make things come alive. And in primary school in Rákóczi-Falva, which is a little village, and I was in a really fixed, narrow mindset, I started to learn math and later physics, biology, chemistry, and all the science, which started to widen my perspective about the life and about the world. And I truly believed in this part of my early childhood that there is more to life than meets the eye, and there is more to this human condition and the life. There are a lot of experiences to explore or to live, and a lot of things to do in this life. And as I continued my studies in the secondary school, and I deep dive into this science part of my education, I was in the specialization of mathematics and physics. And I remember at the time when I was reaching the quantum physics part, I was absolutely amazed how this world really works. Of course, there are a lot of questions in it, but these were the questions that came to my mind at that time. How did the universe begin? How does our body and biology work? What on earth is going on earth, and how can I understand not only how the world really works, but also how the human mind works and how the human brain works. And that's how my journey started as a forever curious person in a little village. And reading was one of my main interests that helped me to widen my perspective. And the other one, was doing long distance running, which with which I didn't only improve my physical stamina, but also my mental stamina, because I knew that after the secondary school, going to Budapest University of Technology, to electrical engineering department, it would be a big obstacle, or not obstacle, but I would rather say it would be a great challenge for me and a great milestone in my next few years, because there will be a lot of really clever students around me, and I have to study a lot to keep up with them, and to do this electrical engineering degree. And this mental stamina was absolutely utmost important for me in the next few years, because that was the time when I was diagnosed with cancer. It was testicular cancer on the right side, and maybe because of lot of stress and a lot of studying overnight, not enough sleeping, and emotional and physical stress, it could cause this health event in my life, and the sentence was chemotherapy, because I had metastasis all over my body, and it was a stage 3 cancer at the age of 21 when I was doing my electrical engineering degree, and when I was in the near the finish line of my childhood dream, which was to become an engineer and to create something greater than myself, and to help not only to myself but also a lot of people in the world with my products or developments. So I was there sitting in the National Institution of Oncology in Budapest at Kékgolyó Street, and I was still learning mathematics, physics, about electromagnetic spectrums and quantum physics, and how the world really works, as I just dreamed about these topics, and now I just started to understand how this really works. And I was writing my programming code in my notebook in front of me while I was getting this chemotherapy treatment. So learning was an absolute flow experience for me at that time inside the walls of the oncology institution, and I could imagine a world where I will be healthy again, and I get my electrical engineering degree, and where I go back to competitive sport as well. So this flow experience and the learning and this lot of and the dopamine hits from the information gathering was my coping mechanism at that time. And I tried to make a post-traumatic growth from this post-traumatic stress that I got there while I was beating cancer. And this presentation is not about how I got from cancer, and I don't want to dramatize this story. It's just only the introduction part, how we got to longevity. After the cancer, I continued my studies in the biomedical engineering department, which is a joint education of Semmelweis University and Budapest University of Technology. And since after the chemotherapy, I got this disease called Raynaud's phenomenon, which is a peripheral vascular anomaly that you can see in the picture. That's the graphical representation of my fingers, which means that because of stress or cold environment, there is no efficient blood flow in my fingers, and in the long run it can lead to the amputation of the fingers. And this condition is present in millions of people all over the world. Maybe some of you are affected by this or with this disease. And I have this sensory globe, which you can see in the picture as a graphical representation, but yeah, I have the prototype here with the electric circuit and machine learning artificial intelligence algorithm which can predict and with the help of heating wires inside the globe can not only predict but also prevent the onset of this disease. And since there is no efficient drug or medical solution for this autoimmune disease, it can be a good prototype for a medical device. So after my childhood dreams and the chemotherapy treatment, this is how I got to this biosensor and wearable technology niche of this whole longevity technology. And that's how my professional career was so that's how I found my way in my professional career after beating cancer. And there are a lot of things I can thank for this disease, not only this sensory globe and my professional career as a biomedical engineer, but also competitive sport in long distance running, in marathon running. And after beating cancer, I started to view my health and fitness in a holistic way. So based on running, I started to implement a lot of, let's say it, lifestyle hacks into my everydays, and I started to monitor my recovery, my sleeping patterns, what the food causes, what I eat. I started to measure my blood glucose level and a lot of physiological parameters, which I will talk a little bit later in this presentation. It's just the big picture to show you how I got here at the age of 30 to speak about longevity. And that was only one part of the story, and that's how we got to Believe, Live, Run, which is a biography book. And it was just a long story short. In the last few minutes, I elaborate on that topic in my first book. And after this story, one more milestone happened in my life, or not milestone, I would rather call it a challenge or a traumatic event. After just a few months, as I got cured from cancer, my brother had a serious autoimmune disease called sclerosis multiplex, or SM in short, which is an autoimmune disease which attacks the neurological pathways of the brain. And not because of this disease, but because of the consequences. I've lost my brother a few months after beating cancer, and at that time I didn't even realize what is going on here in my life. It was a really traumatic period of my life, and that's how I came to this topic, which is about longevity. So because of my personal involvement in the topic, in this science field, in the health science, and because of my brother's story and his really short life, I started to deep dive into the science of a healthy life and how we can, let's say, max it out, and not only to live as long as possible, but also to live a meaningful life. And that's how we got to the second chapter of my life, and of course to my second book, which is Super Sapiens. And I deep dive into the topic how we can live a long and healthy life in a world that's lost its mind, because of course I absolutely know that there are a lot of traumas and adverse events and challenges in everyone's life, and not only my story is a traumatic one, and for everyone his or her problem is the biggest and greatest problem in the world. So I try to give you a general or universal coping mechanism and practical skills, and not only theoretical knowledge, but also my personal experiences, how we can cope with such traumatic events, and how we can make kind of post-traumatic growth from post-traumatic stress syndrome. And that's the promise of the super sapiens, because we have a superpower, all of us, which I will talk in just a few minutes. My laptop almost switched out, so that's why I lagged a little bit. But back to the flow and back to the presentation. The niche in this topic will be longevity technology and the biosensors, and via this wearable technology we can optimize our health and lead an absolutely meaningful life, because without our health nothing else matters. There's this saying that a healthy people wants anything and everything in the world, and a sick one wants only one, and it is his health. So first of all, let's preserve our health via primary prevention, and before jumping into the wearable sensors, the glucose monitoring and the sleep monitoring applications and technology, let's see the big picture about human biology and about our evolution, how we got here, and how our body and mind were hijacked in the 21st century, when things started to change at an exponential rate, which means at an ever accelerating rate. So in the 21st century we have become our worst enemies, because of our addictions, because of social media, because of this digital narcissism that is all over present everywhere, and because of all this neuromarketing that big tech companies are showing us constantly. There are evolutionary reasons why they can hack our brains, because we want more and more, and our dopamine system, which is our rewarding system, is hacked by neuromarketing and social media and all these big tech companies. And we can not only blame the tobacco companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and the online streaming platforms, but we should look into the mirror and make conscious decisions. And it's time to take our lives and health into our own hands. So since we have linear brains, in millions of years of evolution, the human brain was adapted to think linearly, and nowadays everything is exponential. There is exponential nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, while artificial intelligence, for example ChatGPT and Grok AI, DeepSeek, Gemini, and all the AI that you think you're familiar with, or you yourself using it. These are exponential technologies, and we try to find the meaning in this life where anything and everything goes at an ever greater pace, except for one thing, and this is exponential meaning. So where is exponential meaning? The superpower of the Homo sapiens is a tool with which we can find this exponential meaning in our life, and that's how we can live not only a long and healthy life, but also a meaningful one. And this superpower is in connection with mental health and also with optimal performance. So if you are a leader, for example, a team leader or a father and a mother, and you lead your children or family, this theoretical knowledge that we are just jumping in is absolutely a practical one in your everyday life. So the problem is that we have lost control because we as Homo sapiens were adapted to a totally different environment that we live in these days in the 21st century. And the question is, how do we get it back? How do we get back the control and make conscious decisions in our lives, and not only we not only make decisions based on the posts and stories and the neuromarketing that we are bombarded today from morning to the evening. So the question is how we go from Homo sapiens to super sapiens. And the first step to the first step in this journey is to understand why do we have brains at the deepest level. So in an evolutionary aspect, and I ask you to write some answers to the chat if you can, and I will check after the presentation when we will start the Q&A session. It's a really tough question, and in my presentations my experience is that almost no one can answer this question. So that's why I started here, because this is the fundamental of the dopamine system, of our addictions, of our mental health and our overall health. So the main reason why we have brains as Homo sapiens have evolved and developed neocortex into our limbic system, it was to make complex movements. And all the other things are just consequences, which means that flexible cooperation, abstract thinking, the theory of mind, which means that I can, I know that others think as well, and that's one of our skills that the other animal in the animal kingdom doesn't possess. So all the other things are just consequences, but mainly in evolutionary aspects, our brain was developed to make complex moves, so that our body can make complex movements. And why is it so important? And how does it relate to longevity? This whole thing here, from millions of years of evolution, says to us, the science and the history of the human brain says to us that we somehow got to the apex predators of the animal kingdom. We weren't faster, we weren't stronger than a lot of animals in the animal kingdom, and somehow we have to cooperate well and endure these persistence huntings, which were about hunting the mammoths and other big animals. So we could cooperate really flexible. And one of our skills or powers as Homo sapiens was that we can sweat really efficiently, and so we can we became the apex predators of the whole animal kingdom. And this leads us to the neocortex, which is our frontal lobe of our brains, and then these are the this is what is under the hood when we start to speak about our superpower, our mental health, and and have to find meaning in an exponential world, where our brain was adapted to a linear environment. And we have an endocannabinoid system, which means that our brain produces endocannabinoids, which are molecules that are responsible for our happiness, for pain reduction, and also there are other chemicals like dopamine, anandamide, endorphin, and all the other cocktail hormone, which is produced during endurance training or physical activity, or especially later in in our ancestors' lives, it was called persistence hunting. So basically, we can say that we were born to run. Our physiology and whole body, our joints, our bones, our muscles, our sweating capability shows the direction that the human, let's call the human animal or the human body, was adapted to run. And that was one of our milestones in our evolution that leads to this state, which is transient hyperfrontality. Transient means just for a while, hypo means just a little, and frontality refers to our frontal lobes where our ego is present, where our time and pain sensations are present. And during exercise, this part of our frontal brain shuts down, which means that we lose the sense of ourselves, of time and pain. And this is called the flow state. There is a hypothesis which says that the flow state is nothing else than a transient hyperfrontality in our prefrontal cortexes. And why is it so important? Because in flow state, we have a 500% more productive capacities, and if we are in a group, there is a group flow which is present, which also produces oxytocin, which is a molecule which helps us to synchronize to each others and helps us to bond with each other. And just think about, for example, a brainstorming session in a multinational environment company where we are together, and let's say we are in an offline, we are in the office. And that's why it is more, everyone is in a more creative state because we are in the group flow state. We are thinking creatively, there is no wrong answer, everyone's opinion matters, and we get from our leader an instant feedback. These are one of the basic presumptions of the group flow state. And this flow state where we do our best and perform our best at the task at hand has evolutionary perspectives. It was by nature developed to cooperate well when we were go for a hunt, for example. And the dopamine system, which is our inner reward system, was based on this transient hyperfrontality state. And nowadays, in the 21st century, this system is hacked by the big tech companies and by social media. When we scroll down on the Facebook, we got these little cheap dopamine hits, and after a while, we get used to it, and we can't do the task that have to be done in our everyday lives. So if we are conscious enough and know that we are hijacked by these exponential technologies, we can now know how to get back our mental and physical health. So the superpower of the Homo sapiens is the flow state. If we can get into the flow state, it means that we will have 5 times more creativity. We can learn languages a lot more faster. We can learn any skills a lot more faster. To tell the truth, I was in flow research in a few years here in Hungary. We used an EEG headband to measure the brain waves during a flow state, and it showed that even different kinds of brain waves appears when someone is in the flow state. And if someone is in a group flow state, it also enhances this feeling and skills that we can acquire in a really short period of time. And that's why the Navy SEALs in the United States are taught how to get instantly into the state of flow. And after this theoretical background and evolutionary aspects of our superpower, let's jump into the biosensors and to the topic of longevity. Because as a leader, and no matter if you lead your family or a group of people, or you are a CEO, for example, in a company, or you are the CEO of your life, I truly believe that what we don't measure, we can't improve, because we cannot feel subjectively, for example, about our blood glucose level or blood pressure or any other physiological parameters. And as soon as we get objective feedback from our performance and from our health, we can maintain it in a long period of time. And it's not about running a sprint, but about running a marathon. And this optimal performance can be maintained through not only months or years, but also decades. And for this maintenance of this optimal performance, I got this and I brought to you these biosensors from the sensory ring to this ECG band, which can measure the stress level and your sleeping patterns. So in this 10 or 15 minutes, let's deep dive into these longevity technology sensors. And let's start with the sleep. And maybe you have heard about Oura Ring, which is here. I can show you it in the camera, but of course it's really small. It has some kind of sensors, and it measures really punctually or accurately your sleeping patterns. And these are screenshots from my parameters, and you can see, for example, from the trends that when my resting heart rate is increasing, it can be a sign of overtraining or some kind of disease, or when I have overdone my to-do list in my life or studies or career. So that is the time when I consciously step a little bit back and have more time for recovery. And heart rate variability, which is HRV in short, its trend from day to day and from week to week can show you whether you are in a stressed out condition, you are overstressed, and you are heading towards burnout. And if this heart rate variability decreases, you can see the trends in your application. If you use some kind of sleep monitoring, for example, a sleep monitoring device, for example, a smartwatch or a sensory ring, just like Oura Ring, you can see from your HRV levels, if it is decreasing, you are heading to burnout and you are too stressed, so it's time to recover. And one more practical longevity hack in connection with sleep is that if you go to bed earlier, before midnight, you can increase your deep sleep stages. Here in the left side you can see that when I started to go to bed, not at around 11 o'clock, but at around 10 o'clock p.m., I almost doubled my deep sleep, because deep sleep stages, when our body, our muscles, and our neurobiological and neuromuscular system regenerates, is in deep sleep, and this sleep stage is happening before midnight. And after we are okay with our sleep, which is 1/3 of our life, so it is a really good investment to know what is happening when we are sleeping. There's another sleep monitoring device called First Beat. It can be attached to the chest, and it measures physiological parameters based on our electrocardiogram signals. And it can measure our stress level really accurately. And in the screenshot you can see that the red lines or the red part of the graph shows that almost all entirely in my day I'm in a really stressful condition, and the doctors, after wearing these biosensors for 30 days, the doctors asked me what I am doing in my days, because they can see that it is really stressful for me. And I said that I do nothing special. I just do my to-do list. I'm running to my trainings, I jumping into meetings, I writing books, I'm doing my longevity research, and I'm in a flow state from morning to the evening. And they said, yeah, that's the problem, because I don't let my body and mind to recover. So this sensor can show that my lifestyle wasn't as optimal as I thought. And this blue part here at the end of the day in the right side shows that I do my 1 or 2 hours of training every day, and after that in the green zone it is a recovery and sleeping, and my body is in a relatively optimal and dynamically in a healthy state, because my parasympathetic activity is in pair with my sympathetic activity. So this little device showed me that I'm in a really stressful lifestyle. So in just the last few months I started to implement some kind of modification in my lifestyle habits. And there is this little pulse oximeter, which is a smart one, which means it doesn't only measures your blood oxygen level and your heart rate, but also shows a lot of parameters about your cardiovascular health. And also there is this graph, and every morning I do this measurement. It's a 2-minute measurement, and I write a comment to remember what happened in the previous day. For example, after running 27k in the previous day and sleeping 9 hours, and had a dinner at 6 p.m. in the previous day, I was here in the little bit out of the healthy score. The healthy score means that I'm in the middle of this green rectangle, and this 2-minute measurement with this smart pulse oximeter can show me that how my day starts. Am I stressful? Am I overtrained? Am I recovered enough to do my to-do list and of course to do a hard training, or shall I have a little bit more rest? And there are a lot of parameters in connection with the cardiovascular health and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is about our recovery and our stress management. So I really recommend this heart reader, which is a pulse oximeter, and it's a really cheap device to measure each and every morning your current status in connection with stress and overload or overtraining if you do some kind of sport. And another one here is a continuous glucose monitoring system, which has a microneedle in it and an applicator. So this device goes to the interstitial fluid under the subcutaneous area, which means that it doesn't measure the blood glucose from the blood, but with some kind of algorithms, it can be a good, it has a good correlation with blood glucose level from your interstitial fluid, and it shows without measuring your from your finger tips the blood glucose. It can show your glucose level continuously. One sensor measures for 2 weeks, and from 0 to 24 it is always inside you, and even when you are sleeping it can show how your blood glucose level changes. And in this graph you can see that I had some kind of great spikes in my blood glucose, and after wearing this sensor and optimizing my eating habits, I could make this graph a little bit smoother, which means that my insulin response for the carbohydrate and any other meal that I take during the day has a smaller insulin response, so my glucose level won't drop as much as it used to drop. And with only with this little device, in just 2 weeks, I could optimize my eating habits. I have tested Abbott LiberSense and Sibionic CGM, and the results shows that these are one of the best CGMs in the market nowadays. And after this presentation, I can send you the link to this to these slides, and you can see the names of these CGMs, and of course you can order it online. I'm not the distribution of any of these sensors. I just try to share my knowledge in connection with this longevity technology. So these are all my experiences. And then the next sensor or wearable technology or similar to them that I use every day is a smart scale, which is called WeThings Body Plus, and it doesn't only measure my weight, but also my body fat percentage, my muscle loss or muscle gain, and from month to month I can follow the trends, how I gain weight and how I can lose, for example, body fat when I start to shape after my base training in running. And this is a great way to log not only your weight but also your muscle mass, bone mass and fat percentages, and also your dehydration, because this WeThings Body Plus smart scale with the help of some kind of bioimpedance measures your other parameters, not only your weight. And this leads us to another application. It's now this time it's not a biosensor but an application. Maybe you have heard about Strava, in which you can measure your or log your not only your running or sports event, but how much time you have spent with movement or with yoga, with stretching, with walking, with running, cycling, swimming, or whatever your chosen sport is. Here I log my runs, and when I check what happened in the year, I saw that I ran a lot in the previous year, and I just realized that it was a half part-time job for me, so I could cut a little bit off from these kilometers, which was 5,500 in last year. And of course, if I can see the results and the statistics, I can make more conscious decisions based on my health, and I can see that the running part of my life, so the endurance running, the sport part of my life is a little bit too much. So from year to year, as I followed my trends, how much kilometer I run and how much time do I spend with running or exercising, I could saw that I was overdo it. So after a while I went to this measurement to Városmajor Cardiology Institution, and there we can measure that what is my biological age, for example, relating to my cardiovascular fitness. We measured my VO2 max parameter, which is a good predictor of longevity, and also the grip strength is a good parameter of longevity. It is in connection with degenerative diseases, for example, Alzheimer, Parkinson, and other kind of dementia. So these measurements I highly recommend to everyone. I will place the links and the descriptions and the information about these measurements in this presentation, and of course in my book Super Sapiens I elaborate on that topic a lot more. And there is this last biosensor, which is a hydration patch. It can measure your fluid loss, your mineral loss, and you can optimize your water intake or drinking habits with such a biosensor. And of course one can say that I drink when I am thirsty, but the thing is that if you drink when you are already thirsty, it's too late, because you are already dehydrated. And I've just realized that hydration is part of longevity, is part of skin health and part of our overall health, and that's why I started to use this patch as well, not only to optimize my fueling and hydration during sports event, but also in my everyday life. I try to be in an absolutely hydrated state, because in the long run, in the last years or in the last decade in my life, it will count a lot how much hydrated I have been in my previous decades. Yeah, and some words about the microbiome, the gut-brain axis, and the genetics, and I will leave a few. We will have a few minutes for the Q&A in the end of the presentation. These are the last parts, how we can optimize our health and performance in our everyday life, not only with biosensors but also with this kind of genomics. And this picture shows that. Shows my alpha diversity in my gut, which means how much bacteria and what kind of bacteria do I have in my gut, which is, maybe you have heard about that, absolutely in connection not only with our metabolic health but also with our with our aging rates. So one of the main reasons of aging is a dysfunction in our gut. So with the microbiome sequencing, we are able to get the picture which are the bacteria that are present in our gut and which are those that are missing, and with some kind of probiotics and prebiotics we can optimize our gut health as well, and thus slow down aging. And also because of the gut-brain connection, which is via the vagus nerve, which is the 10th nerve in the brain, our gut communicates constantly with our brain, and 90% of the signals go from our gut to our brain. So that's why it is called our second brain, and that's why it is really important to optimize the health of our gut as well, and that's how we can do it with the microbiome sequencing. And then there's the genetic sequencing. I used the 23andMe. This is the name of the genetic sequencing provider that I used, because they give you the raw data, the raw genetic data, which you can upload to other solutions, for example DNAfit, which is now called Circle DNA, and you can get further details about your personalized nutrition, and you can you get to know about your caffeine sensitivity, lactose tolerance, or celiac predisposition, which is also known as gluten sensitivity. And even it will generate you personalized recipes and superfoods. And then there is this genome link, which gives you further details about your enzymes and about your nutrition needs based on your genetics. And for example, in Prometheus, which is another genetic provider, I could check that based on my genetics and mutations, I am 1.6 more times more predisposed to type 2 diabetes, which means that I should really watch my carbohydrate intake, and that's why I measure it with the continuous glucose monitoring system. So that's the big picture. That was the toolkit of that was the toolkit and the mindset of Super Sapiens, which is about we transcend our biology and we take and make conscious decisions regarding our health and our lifestyle. And in the labyrinth of life, in this exponential technology that is all over present in our lives, there is the genius who plans every step in the labyrinth of life, and there is the doer who doesn't plan anything but jumps in and with trial and error tries to optimize his health and his lifestyle. And the doer, I think, is someone who measures himself and not only just plans a great lifestyle, but in the end never starts to implement it in real life. And I was an absolute doer in the last few years, and I just realized that I can do anything in this life, but not everything. My time is absolutely limited. And of course everyone's time is limited, and I realized that there are the infinite to-do lists, there are infinite experiences to live, there are infinite amount of tasks to do in our everyday life, and there was time when I made 29 hours from 24 by multitasking. Then I realized that it is not the way for the optimal and long-lasting performance, because it uses up our attention, and in the long run it can also, in our later life when we will be at our elderly stages, it can lead to neurodegenerative diseases, to Alzheimer, Parkinson and dementia. So I don't really recommend multitasking, because it's not a longevity but an anti-longevity way of thinking. So whenever we do something, do that thing only and then switch task to another one, because this is the basic or this is the base of the flow state, when we can focus on one thing and our creativity and performance will be 500% more than if we only switching tasks really fast. And one more last thought here, and for the end of the presentation, not only to speak about the biosensors and longevity technology and flow and evolutionary aspects of our life, but also as a message here. There is this life calendar which consists of weeks from the time when we born to this time to 100 years, and when I mark my last 30 years that have already passed, I can see that I have not so much time left. But when I mark the time when I will spend with sleep, I can see that half of my life has already gone. And then when I mark my basic needs, eating, traveling and other stuff in my everyday life, I can see that what is the real time left in my life, even if I plan to live up to 100 or even beyond. So this is just a message to everyone that we can, in today's world, we have all the knowledge through GPT and the Google search and the books and the podcasts and presentations, and we can be anything and everything in the world, but we should choose wisely, because everyone is racing for our attention and our time, and if we can visualize how much free time do we really have, we can make better and more conscious decisions. So yeah, that was the super sapiens part of my life and of my longevity studies. You can find a lot more information in my books. I elaborate on the biosensors and the evolutionary aspects of these topics in Super Sapiens. And I see that we have only 2 minutes for questions, so please drop any questions into the chat or ask it as you want. And if we won't have enough time to answer all of it, you can contact me on my email address, which I will write here into the chat.